at 4:20 a.m. on June 25, 1950. The sudden invasion by North Korea began the horror of the Korean War. Seoul was taken in just 3 days, and the Korean peninsula was torn apart. The war between the two Koreas was a tragedy that was filled with the endless cries of orphan children and the ceaseless sounds of gunfire. At the time, the soldiers of the 16 participating UN member nations grasped our hands, which were covered with blood. They began arriving just a few days after the communist invasion, and they fought and shed their blood together with us throughout the 3-year war. These young soldiers from foreign countries sacrificed their youth and their lives for Korea. Over the past 60 years, Korea has achieved rapid growth and has become one of the leading nations of the world, even hosting the Olympic Games as well as the World Cup. In the midst of such unprecedented prosperity and freedom, we have often forgotten the pain of the Korean War and the stolen sacrifices of those young soldiers who put their lives on the line for our nation. Reverend Sun Myung Moon and his wife, Hakja Han Moon, donated $10 million so that the Littel Angels could visit the 16 UN member nations that sent fighting troops to Korea in 1950. Their purpose was to express the gratitude of the Korean people to the veterans and their families. In 2010, the Littel Angels began a tour of gratitude to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the Korean War. Starting in the United States and continuing their tour to 2 more countries in the Western Hemisphere, they traveled on to 9 more countries in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, as well as to 4 more countries in Asia and Oceania. The Littel Angels visited a total of 16 countries during their 3 tours. They met over 5,000 government officials and 16,000 civil servants and their families, and presented performances of gratitude to more than 100,000 attendees from around the world. The 194-day miracle that made the world smile and shed tears of joy is about to begin. The first tour began in the Western Hemisphere and included the United States, Canada, and Colombia, South America. The starting point was the United States, the land of the free. During the Korean War, the United States dispatched the largest number of troops and suffered the highest number of casualties. Despite this enormous sacrifice, America still remains as Korea's strongest ally today. The Littel Angels met Korean War veterans as they traveled to 5 cities: Norfolk, Virginia, Washington, D.C., New York City, New York, Atlanta, and Fort Benning, Georgia. On the day after their arrival in America, the Littel Angels visited the MacArthur Memorial in Norfolk, Virginia. It was General MacArthur who arrived in Suwon, South Korea on June 29th, the 4th day after the North Korean invasion. Upon seeing the fires in the Han River defense line of Seoul, he sent an emergency telegram to President Truman of the United States from his plane on the way back to Japan. In order to save Korea, General MacArthur's telegram urgently called for the immediate deployment of ground troops. This led to the dispatch of UN forces. The Littel Angels paid their respects and expressed our gratitude with a moment of silence at the grave of the man whose decisive action protected Korea from complete annihilation. On June 25, 2010, the 60th anniversary of the Korean War, we held a wreath-laying ceremony at the Korean War Memorial in Washington, D.C. The Littel Angels respectively gave honor and paid tribute to the surviving veterans, as well as to memory of the fallen soldiers. Even thousands of thank yous and hundreds of performances would never be enough to repay our debt to those who sacrificed their young lives for Korea.
그 당시에 전쟁에 쏴줬던 분들의 얼굴을 봐서 너무 감사한 마음이 더 커졌어요. 이렇게 많은 사람들이 한국전쟁에 참여를 해가지고 그 사람들한테 감사하고 수고하셨다고 전하고 싶어요.
Then the Little Angels visited Arlington National Cemetery to express our gratitude. This is where many of the 54,000 young American soldiers who sacrificed their lives during the Korean War rest in peace. Co-chairman Park Bo-hee couldn't help but to shed tears as he stood in front of the graves. To co-chairman Park, who participated in the Korean War as a cadet in the Korean Military Academy at the age of 19, these courageous souls were his comrades in arms. One of these groups of comrades was called Task Force Smith, which arrived in Korea on July 1, 1950, and fought against a heavy onslaught of enemy soldiers. They were the first to sacrifice their lives for our freedom. The Little Angels expressed their respect for these solemn sacrifices by placing Korean and American national flags next to their headstones.
대한민국에 와가지고 제일 먼저 저기 사는 사람들이야. 제일 먼저 죽은 사람들이 여기 붙였어요.
Engraving your names with love from the bottom of our heart. Engraving your names with the gratitude of our nation. Soon, the Little Angels arrive at the Kennedy Center, where their first performance is to take place. They wipe away their tears and begin to put on their makeup. This performance is more than enough to make the Little Angels nervous and excited at the same time. The Kennedy Center is the most prestigious performance hall in Washington, D.C. Since 1971, only 2 Korean performing art groups have performed here: the Universal Ballet Company and the Little Angels Children's Folk Ballet of Korea. As the curtain time approaches, the lobby is filled with attendees waiting to enter the hall. The veterans who arrived early shared memories of Korea with fellow soldiers. One young American girl imitated the pose seen on the Little Angels posters. The Kennedy Center was soon filled with people who were there to see the Little Angels. Before the performance began, on behalf of Reverend Sun Myung-moon, co-chairman Park Bo-hee explained the significance of this special performance.
They, Americans, UN forces, fought as though they were defending their own country. Without their sacrifices, today we would have no freedom, no democracy, and no prosperity. Millions of children, like the Little Angels you see tonight, would never have grown up happy like they are today.
Co-chairman Park Bo-hee's greetings were preceded by other congratulatory messages.
I am very honored to be a part of this very noble and wonderful project. Please enjoy the show. Thank you, and God bless you.
I really again thank the Little Angels for expressing the thanks of Korean people to the people of the United States, and I hope that our relationship and our alliance and our solidarity will continue in the future. That is the meaning of what they will perform, what the young Korean men and women will actually perform tonight.
The Little Angels begin their performance with an English greeting that they've been practicing.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am a member of the Little Angels of Korea. I like you very much. Do you like me too? We America. In 1950, you came to help our country of Korea. Today, we have come to give you a big thank you. I hope you like our show. Please give us lots of cheers. Yes? Thank you.
Another round of applause.
I think this was a wonderful program, and I'm not surprised that the Korean children are so capable and so artistic and so talented. It was a wonderful show, and I'm so pleased that I was invited.
And today's performance was breathtaking. The Little Angels were beautiful, and they brought to our audience the sense of love that exists between our two countries, and we're very, very, very thankful that we were able to see them today.
Attended by veterans and their families, key individuals in Washington, D.C., and VIPs of various countries, the Little Angels performance rated the highest number of audience participants in the history of the Kennedy Center.
Tonight, you was just absolutely wonderful. And just like all the other great artists that have performed here in the last 40 years, thank you.
인생에 한 번 쓸까 말까 한다는 무대에서 공연을 무사히 마치게 돼서 너무 기쁘고요. 너무 좋았어요. 그리고 나중에 제가 커서 이 무대에 다시 쓸 수 있는 훌륭한 무용가가 되고 싶어요.
The next day, the Little Angels were invited to the commemoration of the 60th anniversary of the Korean War held at the U.S. Congress.
Today we honor their sacrifice once more. We pledge to never forget them. We remember all they did for the American people and all they achieved for peace and liberty around the world.
The senators greeted the Little Angels as peace delegates and expressed their amazement that a tour that should have been carried out on the government level was funded privately. Congressman Charles Rangel expressed his strong affection toward Korea. Being a Korean War veteran himself, he was delighted and deeply moved to receive the Hero's Medal from the Little Angels. The Little Angels then traveled to New York, the Big Apple. New York is the home of the United Nations headquarters, which protected Korea by dispatching UN forces in a swift manner. At the UN building, black and white pictures show the devastation of the war. If it wasn't for the UN, Korea as we know it would not have survived. The Little Angels expressed their gratitude to His Excellency Ali Treki, President of the General Assembly. President Treki praised the Little Angels for making such a long and difficult journey and wished them the best of luck as he held the hands of each of them. The tour of the Little Angels was introduced throughout America by the local media.
Korea gave a special performance to honor Korean War veterans.
And our message of gratitude spread to the four corners of the world.
Now since the Korean War.
As the efforts of these young ambassadors of peace and goodwill were introduced by the Korean media, the Little Angels received messages of support from the Korean people. The next destination was Canada, a country blessed with enormous natural beauty. During the Korean War, Canada dispatched its Army, Navy, and Air Force to Korea. They were our comrades who fought against the attack by the Chinese forces at the Battle of Kapyeong in April 1951. After arriving in Canada, the Little Angels visited a veterans hospital to meet the Korean War veterans. The veterans and their families had already gathered early in the morning to greet the Little Angels. The young soldiers who fought on the battlefield 60 years ago are now fighting health and age-related problems in their final years. It was truly a moving moment. The Little Angels poured their hearts into their songs. A long time ago, their blood protected Korea. Thanks to them, these Little Angels were born and are standing in front of them today. When their historical achievement from 60 years ago stood before them in youthful innocence and beauty, they gave an embracing hug to the angels of peace. After hearing about the visit, Mayor Larry O'Brien of Ottawa invited the Little Angels to City Hall to express his gratitude and to encourage them on their arduous world tour. In return, the Ottawa City Hall was filled with harmonious and heavenly music. This visit will be remembered as a pleasant memory for everyone. The last destination for the first tour was in Colombia, South America. The Colombian soldiers, who were filled with passion and bravery, played a crucial role in leading vital battles to victory during the war. While celebrating their 200 years of independence, the Colombian government also arranged for the 60-year memorial ceremony of the Korean War during the Little Angels' visit. Over 500 high-ranking military officials participated. The young soldiers paid their respects to the veterans, and a hero's medal was given to each of the surviving soldiers. Families who had lost their fathers, sons, or husbands to the war were also there. They cried in sorrow and gratitude for those who had passed away, and in memory of those extraordinary men and women who had made the ultimate sacrifice. The Little Angels gave smiles to these families. However, at 2,640 meters above sea level in Bogota, it was difficult for some of the Little Angels to breathe.
가만히 있어도 숨이 차는데 뛰니까 되게 좀 갈비뼈가 아파요.
어떻게 극복할 거예요?
참고 해야죠.
And that's exactly what the Little Angels did. They danced and sang with every last bit of strength in their bodies. The Little Angels' hard work and dedication was magnificently delivered to the Colombian audience, and the Colombian people responded with standing ovations. They continued to sing and perform to the best of their ability. Some of them received treatment for altitude sickness after the performance was over. Local Korean embassy personnel were amazed by the fact that these Little Angels had achieved something that they themselves had not been able to achieve, even after years of hard work.
하여튼 너무 잘했어요. 그제. 다들 하여튼 감동을 해가지고 전부 다 막 소리를 지르고 난리를 쳤어.
이건 역사에 기록할 일이야.
아니 근데 몇 번이라도 봐도 질리지가 않아요. 그래도 다들 표정이 조금씩 다르던데 어제하고 그제가.
다르더라고요.
먼 길을 마다하지 않으시고 저희들 저렇게 방문해 주셔가지고 저희들한테는 사실 외교적으로 큰 도움이 되고 있습니다. 여러분들 이번 공연으로 인해 가지고 여기서 대사인내가 일하기가 훨씬 더 수월해졌어요. 다시 한번 고맙고 앞으로 또 다른 공연들이 있을 텐데 열심히 해서 또 우리 한국의 국기를 선장해 주길 바랍니다. 다시 한번 정말 고생했어요. 감사합니다.
Unlike the first tour, which was relatively easy, for the second tour we traveled to 9 countries in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. The tight schedule alone proved to be a difficult challenge. The Little Angels had to endure the schedule of visiting 9 countries, as well as memorizing and singing 27 songs in the respective local languages. However, our Little Angels advanced a step closer to the world as they successfully completed these objectives. Their tour began in France, the nation of liberty, equality, and fraternity. The UNESCO headquarters in Paris was more than happy to allow the Little Angels use of their main conference hall.
이 춤과 노래는 아마도 유네스코 회원국인 193개국가 모든 국민에게 아주 생생하게 전달될 것입니다. 참으로 감동적인 공연이었습니다.
After successfully becoming the world's first performing arts group to perform at the UN headquarters in New York, the Little Angels wrote another page in history at the UNESCO headquarters in Paris. The dances of the Little Angels conveyed Korea's desire for world peace. And the singing of the Little Angels embraced Korea's determination to protect and promote this peace.
I wish I could speak Korean because I would really like to tell you how much I enjoyed this, but you have a special place in my heart. I will always, always, always remember this. It was extremely beautiful. Thank you very much. And I speak on behalf of 193 countries of UNESCO, and we all bring you congratulations for what you've done. Thank you.
영어로 해봐.
Thank you very much.
However, the moment of joy was followed by the biggest challenge of the second tour, which was still awaiting them. It was the performance in the Palais des Congrès de Paris. A concert venue with 3,700 seats and a stage that no Korean performance group had ever stood on before. Would the Little Angels be able to fill all those seats? Will the Little Angels be able to express their gratitude with an amazing performance? The children couldn't even eat dinner because they were so nervous. But they tried to encourage themselves by telling one another that it was just another in a series of performances. Will our Little Angels be able to complete another miracle? It's 30 minutes before the performance begins. As Korean Ambassador Park Hung-shin and co-chairman Park Bo-hee greeted the war veterans and VIPs in the reception area. The theater seats began to fill up one by one. Minutes later, when the show was about to begin, the 3,700 seats were filled to capacity with Parisians. It was the most beautiful sight that could be seen anywhere in the world.
Mesdames et messieurs, bonsoir, je m'appelle Coreana. Je suis un des membres des Littel Angels de Corée. Je vous aime beaucoup. M'aimez-vous aussi? S'il vous plaît, applaudissez-nous très fort. D'accord?
The Little Angels healed the painful memories of the war with their drum dance. They promised eternal friendship with their emotional songs. The Parisians were captivated by the traditional Korean folk music. Their standing ovations were not just for Korea's beautiful traditional arts, but for the fact that Korea did not forget. Away from home, the Little Angels traveled around the world with a large suitcase, oftentimes weighing more than they did. However, they never skipped a single rehearsal. They never let down their guard for a single moment. They endured the training, dripping with sweat, and even sleeping on the bus. They wanted their performance to be perfect because they understood its meaning. It was a stage for our nation to thank our heroes around the world.
저희들의 무슨 힘을 가지고 이 기적적인 역사를
Co-chairman Park Bo-hee and the Little Angels were thankful for their unbelievable success, and they promised to do their best until the tour was successfully completed.
부모님의 영역이 같이 하셔서 우리가 9개국을 완전
The Little Angels matured as the number of performances completed increased. They had wreath-laying ceremonies at each of the Korean War memorials in the destination cities, and consoled the souls of the fallen soldiers who are the everlasting guardians of Korea. When they met the Korean War veterans in Belgium, it was raining from early in the morning. However, the veterans didn't mind the cold rain as they came to see the Little Angels. But that was not all that surprised the Little Angels. They visited a museum with photographs and exhibits of the Korean War that depicted buildings named after regions of Korea that they were familiar with, such as Imjin and Chatgol. Although some memories of the Korean War are buried deeply, the veterans tearfully joined together in singing the Korean folk song, Arirang.
사랑하는 Little Angels. 저희는 이번 영군 한국 3년 60주년 공연을 보고 아유 감동을 받았습니다. 진심으로 감사합니다. 특히 저희는 대한민국 해방시키는 데 도움을 수 있었던 것에 대해서 항상 자랑스럽게 생각하고 있습니다.
And this feeling didn't change in Greece, the land of myths and legends. The wounds of one Korean War veteran were a shock to the Little Angels. They didn't know what to say after seeing the scars left from serious gunshot wounds for the first time. Even after having gone through surgery 11 times for bullet wounds and enduring all that pain, the veteran said that they were scars of honor and that participating in the war was the right thing to do. His dedication and love were so great that it could not be repaid in any way. The Little Angels gave him a big hug in an effort to comfort the pain he endured during the war. The Little Angels performed and spread Korea's dynamic culture throughout Europe, where traditional Korean performances are rare. During this period, they made pleasant memories and met with leaders of the European nations. One of them was Prime Minister Yves Leterme of Belgium. After presenting him with Korean gifts, the Prime Minister and the Little Angels took photos together. The Little Angels captured the Prime Minister's attention with one word, kimchi. Saying kimchi when taking pictures was popular among the foreigners. President Abdullah Gül of Turkey was amazed by the elegant beauty of the Korean hanbok, showing his affection and respect for Korea.
Evet, çok orada hep şöyle dediler. Dediler ki Türklerle biz kan kardeşiyiz. Çok doğrusu memnun oldum tabii. 60 yıl önce Kore'ye giden Türkiye'den çok binlerce subayımız, askerimiz oldu. Ama işte o büyük bir dostluk ve yakınlık, kardeşlik doğurdu.
In return, the Little Angels sang a Turkish song. The president was so moved by the fact that the Little Angels sang a Turkish song that even the locals didn't know so well. But the Little Angels sang it perfectly. President Carlos Papoulias of Greece greeted the Little Angels with a warm, grandfatherly smile. And in the Netherlands, the land of windmills and tulips, the current and former ministries of national defense attended the performance by the Little Angels. Afterwards, Defense Minister Eimert van Middelkoop held the Little Angels in his arms and complimented them on their performance. The Little Angels then headed to England, the land of gentlemen. Here they met with strong support from Honorable Kim Yang, the Minister of Patriots and Veteran Affairs of Korea. He participated in the wreath-laying ceremony held in St. Paul's Cathedral with the Little Angels. Together with co-chairman Pak Po-hee, he greeted veterans and VIPs
this occasion tonight
and delivered a congratulatory address on behalf of the Korean government.
Even though the gunfire has stopped a long time ago, the dedication of the veterans of the Korean, United Kingdom and other United Nations allied countries is still in the hearts of Korean people. I would like to ask your continued support and cooperation for further strengthening friendship between our two countries and firmly establishing peace in Korea.
With the support of Minister Kim Yang, the Little Angels captured the hearts of the English audience with a dynamic performance. After watching the performance, Minister Kim Yang didn't forget to thank the Little Angels for carrying out a difficult mission on behalf of the Korean people.
참전국 용사분들한테 이렇게 좋은 쇼를 보여주고 또 리틀 엔젤스에 정말 아주 훌륭한 거 있어갖고 영국 국민들도 좋아하는 것 같습니다. 참 자랑스럽습니다. 이렇게 할 수 있다는 게. 리틀 엔젤스 고생한 것에 대해서 다시 한번 노고를 취합니다. 수고들 하셨습니다. 감사합니다.
The next day, co-chairman Pak Po-hee was asked to give a special address at the National Parliament of the United Kingdom. On this occasion, he praised Reverend Sun Myung-moon as the main supporter that made this global tour of the Little Angels possible.
Ladies and gentlemen, Reverend Moon is a man of great compassion. He always emphasizes that you must never forget what you owe to others. The nation of Korea especially owes the debt of blood to the 16 UN member nations that sent the troops to the Korean War in 1950.
When the Korean War broke out, Reverend Moon was in North Korea doing missionary work. He was captured and imprisoned in Hungnam Prison, where he was tortured and subjected to forced labor. Hungnam Prison was considered a death camp for detainees due to the harsh labor conditions and meager food rations. After General MacArthur was victorious with the Incheon landing, the UN forces moved northward towards Hungnam, and the prison guards began to execute the detainees there. The day before Reverend Moon was to be executed, the prison doors were opened wide in the early morning hours. The UN forces had arrived. After this near-death experience, he made a strong determination to make Korea better known throughout the world as a country that preserved tradition and culture, and one that seeks peace. In order to accomplish this, on May 5, 1962, he formed the Little Angels Children's Folk Ballet of Korea. Since then, the Little Angels have become Korea's tiny ambassadors of peace and goodwill, making Korean culture better known throughout the world. This tour brought glory and honor to the veterans, many of whom were forgotten. During the Korean War, the Republic of South Africa dispatched its air force to Korea, which was the second largest independent air force in the world at the time. Their air support played a crucial role in Korea's survival. However, 60 years later, South Africa has undergone many internal changes, and these brave veterans were not properly appreciated. The situation for Ethiopian veterans was even worse. In 1950, Ethiopia was one of the most advanced nations in Africa. Emperor Haile Selassie dispatched one battalion consisting of his imperial guards. They were called the Rising Battalion, for being victorious in numerous battles, receiving over 750 meritorious commendations. But due to the communist coup in 1974, they lost their homes, their assets, and even their names. They were treated as criminals. The medals they had earned for saving Korea oftentimes had to be sold cheaply in order to purchase food or clothing. The value of these honorary medals had fallen to be worth barely a single dollar. Ethiopia became independent after the democratic government took power in 1991, but the nation still suffered from poverty. However, even though they faced poverty, the Ethiopian veterans never lost their dignity of being a Korean War veteran. The songs of the Little Angels touched their hearts as the veterans shed tears of remembrance and gratitude. Their small, gentle hands gave a feeling of comfort and hope to the hearts of these veterans. Even though the stage and facilities were in poor condition, the Little Angels put their whole heart into every performance. The Little Angels sincerely hoped that these heroes of the Korean War would regain their happiness and not lose their courage in the face of so many disappointments. Their performance also left a strong impression under Chung Soon-seok, the Korean ambassador to Ethiopia.
그야말로 제가 2년 동안 여기서 한 일의 몇 배에 달하는 훌륭한 외교 활동을 하셨습니다. 오늘 여기 같이 계신 동료들 대사들이 떠나면서 전부 다 아주 최고 수준의 훌륭한 공연을 봤다고 이구동성으로 다 저한테 이야기를 하면서 아주 크게 칭찬을 했습니다.
Now, 4 nations in Asia and Oceania remain. The first destination is Thailand, the land of smiles. During the Korean War, Thailand was the first UN nation to offer relief goods, including 4,000 tons of rice. Late at night, the Bangkok airport is crowded by a welcoming party. The Little Angels were surprised by a warm reception that would be normally reserved for well-known Korean cultural stars. The warm welcome of the Thai people was more than enough to dissipate their fatigue. The next day, the Little Angels met with Prime Minister Abhisit Wechachiwa. The Prime Minister thanked the Korean government for sending such beautiful angels of peace to Thailand. In Bangkok, the city of angels, the Little Angels put on a performance that was more magnificent than ever. After the performance, the Little Angels placed a hero's medal around the neck of the Korean War veterans and expressed our gratitude. They also gave a hero's medal to Mrs. Nitap Chai, a nurse who served during the Korean War and helped heal the wounded. She was very moved by this gesture. The Commander-in-Chief, General Prayuth Chan-o-cha, also encouraged the Thai veterans with a handshake.
리틀 엔젤스의 태국 이 공연을 통해서 이 한국의 아주 우수하고 이 다양한 문화 전통을 다시 한번 이 태국에 과시할 수 있는 좋은 기회였다고 생각합니다.
At the end of the event, General Prayuth Chan-o-cha of the Thai Ministry of Defense returned to the stage and said that he was so thankful to the beautiful angels that he couldn't just leave. He then gave the Little Angels a donation with which to carry on with their great work. This time, the Little Angels flew to the island nation of New Zealand. Prior to the performance, the Little Angels were greeted by Mayor Len Brown of Auckland. He gives an unexpected welcome to the Little Angels by singing a New Zealand folk song for them. After describing the meaning of the song to the Little Angels, he was pleasantly surprised to find that the song was to be used as a part of the performance repertoire. The sensation continues at the performance. The 2,200-person capacity venue was so full that 800 people had to be turned away. Those who managed to get in tried their best not to miss a single moment. The New Zealand audience was simply stunned by the dances of the Little Angels. The Korean War veterans kept their eyes on them as if they couldn't believe the fact that they were the ones who protected and preserved this beautiful culture. This performance was even more special to Melissa Lee, the first senator of Korean descent in New Zealand's history.
제가 어렸을 때 대한민국의 여성 대통령이 되는 게 꿈이었었지만 Little Angels가 되는 것도 꿈이었었습니다. 이번에 다행이라고 생각해요. 제가 Little Angels가 안 된 게 저는 저렇게 춤추고 노래를 할 수가 없거든요. 그런 능력이 안 됩니다. 굉장히 좋은 공연이었었고요. 대단히 감사합니다. 뉴질랜드의 참전 용사를 위해서 이렇게 뉴질랜드까지 오셔서 감사합니다.
The next day, the Little Angels held a wreath-laying ceremony at the port where New Zealand soldiers departed for South Korea 60 years ago. The Korean War veterans came to us through these waters. Today, we came to them. The Korean War veterans did their best to sing the Korean national anthem by looking at the lyrics on a piece of paper. They also welcomed the Little Angels like they were their own grandchildren. Korea has become their second mother nation. With their hearts moved, the Little Angels flew to Australia, the land of Down Under. The Little Angels first visited the Australian Veterans Memorial and paid their respects with a moment of silence. May the souls of Korea's heroes reach heaven and rest peacefully.
The most important thing, you know how to smile. 60 years ago, the children of Korea were not smiling, but you are. And we are very, very proud to have met you. Thank you very, very much.
A historic performance took place at the Australian Parliament. To return their thanks to the Australian government for allowing them to perform at the Parliament for the first time, the Little Angels revealed their full potential.
호주에 여러분들이 오셔가지고 이제 우리나라를 대표해서 한국을 호주에 너무나 많이 알리고 가다 보니까 이제 대사가 해야 할 일을 여러분들이 다 해주고 가서 이제 대사가 일하는데 외교 활동하는데 훨씬 더 쉬워질 것 같아요. 너무 고마워요.
Quentin Bryce, the Governor General of Australia, who couldn't make it to the performance, sent an official invitation to the Little Angels to have an abridged performance. The performance was attended by the widow of fallen heroes, which added even greater significance to the venue. Lastly, the Governor General encouraged all of the Little Angels to become outstanding women, and then she saw them off to the final part of their tour. The Philippines was the last of the 16 nations that the Little Angels visited. In 1950, although the Philippines were dealing with an influx of communist guerrillas, they dispatched their most experienced soldiers to Korea. As soon as the Little Angels arrived, they first made a courtesy call to President Benigno Aquino III. Former President Fidel V. Ramos, who is a Korean War veteran himself, attended the performance. The Filipino audience watched the performance quietly as they became one with the Little Angels. As they were moved by the beautiful art presented by these young angels, the final curtains closed on the long festival of peace.
Little Angels, you do no longer belong to South Korea. You belong now to all peace-loving nations of the world.
The fallen heroes of 16 nations who sacrificed their lives at a young age to protect Korea, and the veterans who live on with painful memories of the war. To them, Korea was a home with a bright future. The Little Angels were the valuable fruit that merited their sacrifice. The 194-day tour of bringing 16 nations together with the passion of the Little Angels was a total success. Each day we spent melting the hearts of global citizens and filling them with joy and happiness. Each day we elevated Korea's standing in the world. It was a miracle that would not have been possible had it not been for the joint efforts of Reverend Sun Myung-moon, the Korean government, Korean ambassadors in 16 countries, and Korean enterprises. This was a victory for everyone.
금번 리틀 엔젤스의 UN 참전 16개국 순회 공연은 한국이 은혜를 잊지 않는 나라임을 세계에 알리는 대장정이었습니다. 역사의 처음으로 참전 16개국을 완주한 리틀 엔젤스는 참 장하였습니다. 그러나 나라의 생명을 구해준 은혜는 순회 공연 한 번으로 갚을 수 있는 것이 아닙니다. 우리는 UN 참전국에 영원한 빚을 졌습니다. 그래서 금년도 리틀 엔젤스는 또다시 의무 지원국 6개국을 순회하는 보훈 공연을 떠납니다.
Korea hasn't forgotten. From the heart of Korea, the Little Angels are promoting peace around the world.